Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the fight against fascism. So, I'm going to share with you what began as a private message, and it was my reaction to an interview with Steve Reid, the Labour Housing Minister. Now, I did a video earlier this week on how bad the Labour Party is, but that was kind of sober in comparison to what I'm going to share with you now. So, here are my utterly unfiltered thoughts on this current version of the Labour Party. Am I just crazy? Or can you kind of see what I'm getting at? Have a listen and let me know what you think.
So I just watched the entirety of this interview with Steve Reid, the housing minister, and I feel like, am I completely insane? Is that what's going on here, or are these Labour politicians just completely fucking deluded? Because one of these two things has to be true, and I kind of think to myself, Occam's razor would tell me that it's me that's insane, right? Rather than having an entire cabinet of human beings who one imagines have spent their entire lives dreaming about getting into power, finally actually getting into power, and having such an inadequate understanding of the reality that we're actually facing right now, that all they're going to do is tinker around for another 3.5 years until they get absolutely fucking obliterated in 2029. Or even earlier, if they decide to become those turkeys voting for Christmas. I mean, what the fuck? Seriously, what the fuck? Who is Stephen Reid? Right? I mean, I'll tell you who he is. He is the epitome of this Labour Party. They're nothing. They're fucking nothing. Like, I almost get more pissed off listening to these Labour politicians than I do listening to, well, I don't listen to Farage unless I have to, because I want to make a video about him. Or Yusuf, or any of these other dickheads, or Tice, or whatever. Somehow Tice, for some reason, is the one who's most listenable. I mean, that is a low fucking bar. Really low bar. Because he is just, he's a buffoonish, idiotic, mildly evil creep. But he is the most tolerable out of all the reform or the deform idiots who are thrust upon us. But somehow I kind of feel myself, like I say, getting more irritated almost by these Labour people, because the way that they talk, there's this kind of like face validity, right? They seem so reasonable. They seem so considered. They seem so common sense based, don't they, in their reasoning and their rationale. But when you actually take the time to unpick it, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Seriously. Like, take Stephen Reid. Let's get back to Stephen Reid, the housing minister. So what does he say? He says, right, he diagnoses the problem. So good, aren't they, at diagnosing the problem? Problem is Thatcherism. Literally says the word. It's Thatcherism. Sold off the council houses. The stock is being diminished. What does this mean? It means you no longer have a market that serves the public, because those people who are looking to get into the lower sector price range housing stock basically find that there's not enough there. So they're stuck on lists forever and ever and ever. You've got people who are stuck in temporary housing, or you've got people who are living with their parents, basically their entire lives at this rate. That's what's projected to happen. Or you've got people stuck in private rentals that are becoming increasingly unaffordable. So he diagnoses the problem that is facing so many people in this country. And then he says, the solution is you just build more houses. Okay. But what sector do those houses go into? Like, I'm not hearing the commitment that all of these houses that they're going to build are going to go into the public sector. Because there's a discussion, isn't there? Who's going to actually run those houses? Is it going to be the councils, or is it going to be housing associations? That's something that's discussed in the conversation. It's not, it's an open question. It's that typical Blairite philosophy, that kind of basically neo-Thatcherite philosophy, and he absolutely slammed Thatcher in one line in that interview, which is basically that, look, we're not wedded to the public sector, we're not necessarily wedded to the market. We go with what works. We're the pragmatists. But the whole point is that it's not working. And this isn't just about Thatcher. Labour had 12 years in office to deal with this. In fact, 13 years in office. Let me not take that year off them to deal with this. And what did they do? They just continued the Thatcherite consensus. So it's all well and good saying Thatcher did this. Why the fuck didn't Labour do something in almost a decade and a half in power? Because they accommodated to Thatcherism. What are we seeing from this current government? What are they doing to distinguish themselves from the neoliberalism that came before them? And when I say that came before them, yes, we can talk about Thatcher. We can talk about Major. We can talk about Blair. We can talk about Brown. We can talk about Cameron. We can talk about all of them. Because they all are basically operating within the same paradigm. He's operating within that same paradigm that he's criticising in the same goddamn interview. What the fuck? What the fuck? We're going to build loads of houses, but we can't guarantee those houses are going to go into the public sector. We can't guarantee they're going to be council houses, council controlled. They could slip into the private sector. We're going to build loads of houses, but the number of houses we're building are going to be outstripped statistically by the number of people buying their houses from council stock with the right to buy scheme, which is still in operation. It got started by Thatcher. It was terrible, apparently, according to Stephen Reid, but it's still operating. Why the fuck isn't he getting rid of it then if it's so terrible? Well, I'm going out of my mind. I'm going out of my mind. What are they doing? Outstripped in the same interview. Yeah, we're looking to build, what was I talking about? 18,000 houses to go into, one hopes, into the social sector. But 20,000 houses are being taken out of the social sector every year. And he can't even meet his own targets because, as he says himself, there was a collapse in building in London because of the fact that it became unprofitable to build these houses. So why are we relying on the private sector? Why are we relying on the profit motive? Why aren't we using the state to get these houses built? Why aren't we doing this? Because we're accommodated to the same paradigm which has caused the problems which this government are continuing. They're continuing with the paradigm. And yet they're talking as if they're going to be the antidote to it. You're doing the same thing. So when Starmer comes out and talks about change, this government of change, a number of times I've heard these dickheads come out and say, the government of change, you're not changing anything. You're keeping the same system going. I told you I was going out of my mind. But this is what's happening. At least those cunts in reform will come out and say, yeah, we're going to give a massive tax cut to millionaires. The stuff that we promised to do for working people, that's all gone in the fucking bin. But we're still going to batter migrants, and we're still pretty racist. You know what? Where you are with them, right? I mean, they're lying to you about the fact they're standing for the common man, but they're not lying about the fact that they're a little bit racist, maybe a lot racist. Who knows? I guess it depends which one you talk to on what time of day it is. And, they want to blame everything on migrants, and they've got a serious problem with Muslims, despite having a guy who was a Muslim being their chairman. But it makes it easier to bash the Muslims, doesn't it, if you have, a Muslim in your cabinet to give you a little bit of plausible deniability. But this Labour government, they're so utterly divorced from reality. It's like you feel like you're going insane when you listen to them. They're talking such utter, undiluted garbage. It doesn't even make sense when you just judge it on their own rhetoric without even any pushback. Just listen to what they say. It doesn't add up. How do we get here? How do we get here with such an utterly deluded, clueless government that not only lies to the general public on a daily basis, it's fucking lying to itself. It's ideologically denuded. It's broken. An empty shadow shell of a political operation. They don't know it. They call themselves a government of change. They're chasing these pipe dreams. And they actually seem to invest in these pipe dreams. They actually seem to think these pipe dreams are going to achieve something when they know, when they say in their own rhetoric that it won't make any difference, that it's not adding up, that they can't even meet their own targets, which aren't good enough. to achieve anything. And then when it comes up in the interview that the Greens are talking about abolishing private landlords, actually acknowledging the desperation of the situation, the need to do something significant, the need to do something radical, to actually try to move things forward, it's poo-pooed. They're a bit wacky. Sits there blinking, fucking overprivileged, stuffed pig, fucking complacent sack of shit. Fucking disgusts me. It disgusts me. These fucking charlatans. But am I just mental? Is it me that's insane? Or are we seriously witnessing a bunch of fucking mental patients? Mental patients that present as if they were rational, sensible human beings. But as soon as you actually sit there and listen to what they say and analyze it just a little bit, realize the internal contradictions, I feel like you can't come to any other conclusion except for the fact that these people are just fucking gone wrong. They've gone wrong in the head. Ah, fuck me. Anyway, had to get that shit out of my system because I listened to all of that and I honestly cannot believe what I was subjected to. Anyway, if you watched it and you have a very different interpretation, help me work it out. Maybe I'm mental. Maybe I am just completely insane.
So, am I indeed mental? Let me know in the comments. And if you think maybe I've got a point, then please do like and subscribe. And let's just do better. Take care, guys.